All right, well, thank you again for coming, and we are particularly delighted again because this is all work by David Bailin, who traveled from Little Rock, Arkansas. This is our fourth exhibition. We've had a nice long history with his work. He is a unique individual and always has a unique character viewpoint in his work. This is actually kind of a little bit of a transition conceptually from his viewpoint, which I think he's going to tap into a little bit with us. But we are thrilled, as always, to have you come. And we appreciate all the efforts, and we'll look forward to hearing a little bit about this one.
Well, first I've got to say, to combine our two work is really interesting because it's a dialogue, essentially, between an artist, Josh, who loves the bringing in of multiple ideas and multiple images, and then me, who is very much involved with a kind of direct, very minimalist approach to the use of character and setting. I haven't used color in years. It's a complexity that I don't think I need to deal with the images that I'm working with. So, I would invite you just to kind of really value this connection, the difference between a kind of work that starts off improvisationally and work that begins very, very heavily into the concept and into the structure of things. In this work, I have sort of thought about these routines that these kind of Buster Keaton, Kafka characters deal with. And in all of these, the office is dealt with very clearly and crisply. There is a routine, a kind of simplicity about how these individuals are working within their space. And yet there's something that intrudes within it. And so what I'm interested in is not so much the development of the routine as obvious within these very clean offices, but what happens to the individual when something intrudes within it. So we've got that point of the story where, wait a minute, is that a sound I'm hearing? And is it coming from another wall? Is this going to ultimately fall on him and disrupt his everyday experience? Here, we've all had that experience where we're working intently and we are concentrating and making a lot of effort in getting things done, and then something like a fly comes in and starts, bothering your concentration. And so, I view this character as kind of getting so angry he takes his fly swatter out and he's got his little staple gun and he starts whapping around trying to get this fly out, and his routine is ultimately taken out. I worked for a long time with Richard Foreman in his ontological hysteric theater, and he believed that the true nature of individuals were found through hysterical moments, that you really knew who a person was if you could get them hysterical. And his theater was all about setting up this kind of rhythm and then hitting you with bells and lights into your face. And I've kind of taken that and thought about it in a little less hysterical viewpoint, and thought we find out who we are in moments that disrupt our routine, and when our expectations are somehow undercut and we have to deal with it. And for me, in order to explore that, I have to reduce everything down. The color would not add anything to that story. Heavy-duty strokes and wiping out wouldn't deal with that. What I needed was something very clean and crisp. So you'll notice that for the first time in my work, I actually have straight lines and very clean, crisp, concepts about where everything fits. If anything, I've kind of moved to a minimalist Hopper approach. That notion of quietness that's been disrupted by something else. Again, I think the best way to describe my work is a Buster Keaton character within a Kafka novel. And unlike some of my earlier work, which really dealt with very big metaphorical ideas, the kind of Kafka novel approach, these are the simple little parables, the one-line sort of sentences that come very clear, and you think you know what they're about, and they kind of open up into a kind of slippery slope. So for me, it's those moments of intrusion that I'm interested in dealing with. So, I hope that you'll enjoy some of the little stories here, and I hope that you'll sort of see that there's a relationship between our work that really adds to both of our conception of things. So, enjoy it.
Does anybody have any questions? Did you just want to mention the medium really quick?
Oh, yeah,
How you do your
right.
process?
Yeah, I should mention, I called this show C because I noticed that everything that I use has something to do with either carbon, because I work exclusively in charcoal, or it deals with coffee because the surface is toned by coffee, and the idea that C is also seeing. And so again, it's that minimalist approach. All you need is a bit of carbon, a little bit of coffee to sustain you, and just look at it.
That's great. Is there any questions?
Yeah.
So can I ask you about why you've chosen to, given the sort of simplicity of the idea that you're working with, why have you chosen the scale? I mean, why are these not this big?
Right. They're a little, we talk about the idiosyncrasies of individuals. I was born in '54, so this size is 54 inches, by 52 roughly. Also, if we go to any smaller, we have that God's view, whereas this one allows us a relationship that almost feels like we could sit in those chairs. So I didn't want it to get so small that we didn't understand the enclosure that these people are working with, but I didn't want it to be so big that we couldn't see the whole kind of thing. So it stems from some kind of superstition as well as a need to find a good relation between figure and scale and that paper. Now I have done work that's 18 foot long by 10 feet wide, in which the characters are life size, and so the scenes there are basically theatrical. This size seems to work really well at combining both the sensations, the idea that we're in a space as well as removed from space. Okay. I should mention, I was in theater for a long time, and a lot of what I did was to direct and write and produce these off-Broadway productions. So all of these are really about sitting, creating a setting in which these characters then can interact with it.
I was going to say they are very filmed.
Very, very much so. I've tried to neutralize it. There's a certain point, like I'll throw in my Mac, but for the most part, there's hardly any kind of outside, inside kind of connection. These people are really isolated. They are, all they have is their desk, their materials, I sort of felt like if I put any kind of technology in it, that I would date it pretty quickly. Again, I didn't want it necessarily to be so removed that it looked like something from 100 years ago, but at the same time, I didn't want to necessarily make it so involved with who we are right now, because I view these things as universals. I mean, we've all had that need. I mean, I worked in a cubby for a long time, and I've always had that need to kind of look up over it. So, with the piece over there, he's looking, trying to find out where things are. The books, all of the manuscripts are flowing as if he's on a prow. Like Josh, I love old books. I love collecting stuff. I hold tons of cardboard boxes with tons of different images that I draw from. For me, the paper is really a part of this that I just don't relate to in a digital world. So I really do appreciate the hand quality of stuff.
Can you tell me what's happening there? I mean, the other ones seem fairly...
Yeah, this was a relatively... This work came before this work, and this was really the changeover. But in this one, I had drawn up... For about 2 years before this show was put together, I was doing more destroying of drawings than I was actually producing drawings. And I created a lot of work that I wiped out. And I created a work that was called Revision, and this one is also called Revision. Exactly the same format with a different kind of style. And it's called Revision because this is a kind of library that's being burned. And of course the only thing he has that can put it out is a little bucket, so it's going to go down. And I've always sort of felt that history is that's retained. And if you destroy it, you lose your history. We revise it. So that's what this is all about. I kind of imagine him starting here as a guard with his book, reading, And this fire begins, and all he's left with is this little bucket. So that's what that's about. And that one really is a slightly different than the rest of the work here.
I think we're pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you so
Yep.
much.